on June 18, 1983, in Shiraz, Iran. 10 women were executed in one day. The women were actor Sabit, 19 years old; Simin Saburi, 24 years old; Mashid Niramand, 28 years old; Nasrat Yaldai, 54 years old; Izzat Janami Ashraki, 50 years old; Roya Ashraki, 23 and daughter of Izzat; Tahiri Siavashi, 32 years old; Zarin Machimi, 28 years old; Shirin Dalvand, 25 years old; and Mona Mahmudnizhad, who was just 17 years old. Yadullah Mahmudnizhad, Mona's father, was a dedicated Ba'i who left his comfortable home in Iran to serve as a Ba'i pioneer in the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen in the southwestern tip of the Arabian Peninsula. Mona Mahmudnizhad was born on September 10, 1965, to Yadullah and Farkhanda Mahmudnizhad, who had left their home in Iran to teach their religion in Yemen. When Mona was born, Yemen was under military alert, with the roads controlled by armed guards. Since the Mahmudnizhads lived in the countryside where there was no hospital, they had to travel to Aden, Yemen's capital, to assure that Mona was safely delivered. Although the trip itself was long and arduous, because their automobile was stopped and meticulously searched at numerous roadblocks, they reached the hospital in time. In 1969, the government of Yemen expelled all foreigners, and the Mahmudnizhad family returned to Iran. They spent 2 years in Isfahan, 6 months in Kermanshah, and 3 years in Tabriz before finally settling in Shiraz in 1974. During this time, her father worked repairing small appliances and served the Baha'i community in various Baha'i administrative bodies. The Baha'i faith is a religion founded in the 19th century that teaches the essential worth of all religions and the unity of all people. Established by Baha'u'llah, it initially developed in Iran and parts of the Middle East, where it has faced ongoing persecution since its inception. The religion is estimated to have 5 to 8 million adherents, known as Baha'is, spread throughout most of the world's countries and territories. According to Baha'i teachings, religion is revealed in an orderly and progressive way by a single God through manifestations of God, who are the founders of major world religions throughout human history. Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad are noted as the most recent of these before the Bab and Baha'u'llah. Baha'is regard the world's major religions as fundamentally unified in purpose, but diverging in terms of social practices and interpretations. The Baha'i faith stresses the unity of all people as its core teaching and explicitly rejects notions of racism, sexism, and nationalism. At the heart of Baha'i teachings is the goal of a unified world order that ensures the prosperity of all nations, races, creeds, and classes. Mona was the second child born to Yadullah and Farkhanda Mahmudnizhad and brought the family great joy. Their first daughter, Taraneh, was already 7 years old and her parents had often prayed for another child. Mona spent her first 4 years in Yemen, most of it uneventful and showered with great love by her family. Mona's family was very humble and sensitive, passing these traits to Mona. While she was only a young child, she was already displaying these qualities, which later led to her becoming known, even as a youth, as the Angel of Shiraz. When she attended school in Tabriz, for example, she became so close to her teachers that she would cry when they left the school for some other position. When she entered the 3rd grade in Shiraz, she was quickly recognized as an excellent student and was considered one of the most outstanding in the school. She also had a beautiful singing voice and a genuine love for those around her, especially younger children who would often surround her when she arrived at school just to be with her. By the time Mona became a teenager, She was well known in Shiraz by both young people and adults, both inside and outside the Baha'i community. She was growing into a lovely young woman, with long brown hair and beautiful green eyes. She also continued her excellent scholarship, entering advanced Baha'i classes with students who were often much older. She did well, however, and was one of the best at memorizing many prayers and passages from the Baha'i writings. Mona's love for the faith ran so deep that she would often awake in the middle of the night to pray and meditate. While Mona's father deeply loved his whole family, he had a special love for Mona and would say, "Mona is the very child I have asked the Blessed Beauty to give me." The two developed a deep bond and grew together as Baha'is. In 1981, Mr. Mahmudnizhad was appointed as an auxiliary board member for the province of Pars, and was also elected secretary of the local spiritual assembly of the Baha'is of Shiraz. He was one of the most popular teachers in the Baha'i school. Those who knew them closely said that Mona would often look deeply into her father's eyes in an almost meditative state and communicate with him silently. He was known as a man who was always smiling. Mona's life changed on September 10, 1980, when she turned 15, the age of spiritual maturity in the Baha'i teachings. Mona had already begun following in her father's footsteps as a Baha'i teacher and wanted to teach young children, for whom she had a special love. A year earlier, she had applied to the Baha'i Education Committee to be named to one of their subcommittees, but was refused because she was not 15 yet and not considered old enough for this service. When she received the news, she burst into tears. When she turned 15, she considered it her true first birthday and immediately registered as a Baha'i youth and reapplied to the Education Committee. This time she was assigned to the Children's Education Committee and began teaching Baha'i children's classes, which included the study of the great religions, developing spiritual qualities, encouraging the children to put their talents and education to the service of their fellow man, and especially learning to appreciate the oneness and diversity of the human family. Her service to the faith accelerated greatly and actually began causing her problems. She spent so much time on Baha'i activities that she was having difficulties completing her school assignments. At one point, the pressure was so great that she considered resigning from her Baha'i activities, but could not do it. One day, when she was particularly tired, she asked her father to help her. He read her a passage from the holy writings that said, "The prophets of old wish they were alive in this day, so that they may accomplish a service." Mona immediately stopped talking about her problems and decided that she would carry out her duties to the best of her ability. She even began walking to school instead of riding a bus and saved enough pocket money to buy colored crayons, booklets and pencils, which she would give out as prizes to the students during Baha'i children's class. She also wrote prayers in the booklets and would give them to the children to memorize. While Baha'is regularly faced persecution in Iran, it increased following the Islamic Revolution of 1979. At 7:30 p.m. on October 23, 1982, 4 armed Revolutionary Guards, on the orders of the public prosecutor of Shiraz, entered the Mahmudnizhad household and ransacked it in search of Baha'i material. They then took Mona and her father into custody. They were blindfolded and taken to Sepha prison in Shiraz, where they were placed in separate quarters. Mahmudnizhad was detained there for 38 days. On November 29, 1982, she and 5 other Baha'i women were transferred from Sepha prison to Adelaide prison, also in Shiraz. After some time, she was taken to the Islamic Revolutionary Court, where she was interrogated and then returned to prison. A few days later, She was again interrogated in front of an Islamic revolutionary judge. After these interrogations, which involved physical torture by being whipped on the soles of her feet with a cable, Mahmudnizhad was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. President of the United States Ronald Reagan called for clemency. Despite this, the sentence of the 10 women was carried out on the night of June 18, 1983, at a nearby polo field. Under cover of darkness, in a nearby polo field, the driver of the bus, who later met the grandmother of one of the young women, told her, they were all in the most excellent spirits and were singing many songs on the way. I could not believe that they knew they were going to be executed. I have never seen people in such high spirits. All the 10 women were hanged the same night. Thank you for watching Death Row.